Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to understand the topic of data sufficiency. What exactly is data sufficiency and how to go about solving the questions which are asked under this particular topic. So let us first understand what do we mean by data sufficiency. Now, data sufficiency is essentially about checking and testing the given information whether that particular information can lead us to a solution or not. So this particular topic is not about ascertaining or finding a particular solution, rather it's more about can we find the solution. So the emphasis is not on what is the answer, rather the emphasis is on can we get a solution or if an answer is possible or not. So this is the main difference from other topics, that where we seek an answer. Here we are trying to find out whether it is possible to seek an answer or not from the given set of information. So what the answers have to be more like whether a particular problem can be answered on the basis of given information. So we are more looking more for yes or no. Yes, the answer is possible, or no, the answer is not possible on the given set of information or on the basis of given data. So data sufficiency is remember one thing, it's about if or can rather than what. Now, the different types of questions which are framed on data sufficiency are the problems based on two statements, and also there are a couple of variations where the problems are based on three statements. Now most of the problems which are framed in this particular concept use the topics from various topics from reasoning, from analytical reasoning like ranking, puzzles, blood relation, coding, decoding, and some basic mathematics calculation as well. Topics like averages or probably profit loss discount or profit or the concepts which are based on numbers. Couple of time you would also find questions which have used the basic geometrical input as well. So we can classify the data sufficiency questions into two types, whether they could be reasoning based, which are most or more frequently asked, or they are maths based. So mostly you would find reasoning based questions. Maths based question can also be expected under data sufficiency. Now, this is the usual structure of a data sufficiency question. So there would be a problem statement given. There would be a question is asked in problem statement. Then we would be given two statements. Now these two statements have some data. They would have some data in both of these statements. Now we have to ascertain, or we have to mark A, B, C, D, E in our OMRs, or if we are writing in an online exam, then we have to mark any of these options based on the possible given choices. Now we would mark A if we see the data which was given in the statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question which was raised in the problem statement. In that case, we will mark the answer as A. We will mark answer as B when we see the data given in statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the given question. C has to be marked when both the statements independently can lead us to an answer, can help us in getting the solution. In that case, if it is either 1 or 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question, we would go ahead and mark option C as our answer. Option D has to be marked in case when individually none of the statements is able to give us a solution, but rather we will have to combine the data given in both the statements and then we are able to reach an answer. So D is marked if both statements 1 and 2 taken together are sufficient to answer the question, and E is marked when under any of the circumstances that none of the statements alone, and also when we combine the data in both the statements, in any of the cases we are not able to reach a solution or reach an answer, then we would mark E, that if neither 1 nor 2 is sufficient to answer the question. This can be better understood in terms of a flow chart. So we have a flow chart that what should be the the process flow. of attempting a data sufficiency question. Let's have a look at that. So whenever we have been presented with a data sufficiency problem, first we would check statement 1. If we check, there's a question that has been raised in the problem statement, and if statement the data in the statement 1 is sufficient to answer that question, we will move towards the right hand side. If not, we'll go to the left hand side. If we go to the left hand side, that means the data in statement 1 is not taking us to the solution, then there could be only two possible solutions. What would be that? It would be that the data in the statement 2 will give us the answer. So possible answer choices could be B or E, that none of the statement is giving us a answer. So after this step, we'll check the statement 2, whether the data given in the statement 2, is it alone sufficient to give us an answer. If yes, we know the statement 2 alone can give us an answer, and we'll go ahead and mark B. If no, that means statement 1 was not able to give us an answer. Also, statement 2 alone is not able to give us an answer. So we would go ahead and mark E, that neither of the statement is able to give us an answer. The other side of it, if data in statement 1 was able to give us an answer, then the possible choices could be A, C, D. Then after this, A, remember A was that statement alone is sufficient. C was if either of them is sufficient, and D if we have to combine data from both the statements. Now in the next step, we'll check, is statement 2 sufficient? We've already checked that statement, if statement 1 was sufficient, we got our answer as yes. Then we are further going down to statement 2 and we see if it is sufficient. If not, then we can make a conclusion that only statement 1 is sufficient to answer the question, and we would go ahead and mark A. If yes, if statement 2 also can lead us to an answer, and if we are going towards yes, then one more thing that we need to check, that do we need to combine the data in both the statements to get an answer? If yes, then we will mark D, which means both the statements are necessary to answer the question. If not, that means each of the statement independently can lead us to a solution, and then we would mark C, which means either of the statement can lead us to an answer. So this is the basic process flow or the flow chart that one needs to keep in mind while solving the data sufficiency questions. Now, few pointers that you need to keep in mind. First, as I've already told you, that the emphasis is not on finding the exact answer. The emphasis is more on finding whether if an answer is possible or not. Whether if it is possible to answer the given question in the context of the given information. So we are not required to find the exact answer. We are more interested if I can answer this question or not. Okay. Now, as we have two statements, and we know with the option choice C, we can see that either of the statement can give us an answer. Now, some of you might feel that both the statements should give us the same answer. No, that is not the case. The criteria is to knowing that whether an answer is possible or not. So each of the statement, if it is giving us an answer or a solution which may be different from each other, but still it is able to give us an answer, that is sufficient for us. So the answer can be same also, or answer can be different from each statement also. We are more interested in knowing if the answer is possible or not. Okay, so both the statements can have two unique answers as well. Okay, the only thing is that we are not looking for ambiguity. It should not be like any of the statements. For example, if let's say if there's a problem which says that a square is equals to 4. Now when we find out the value of a, it would be plus minus 4. So can we take this answer as a unique answer? No, because A can be plus 4 also, A can be minus 4 also. So there is an ambiguity in the answer. So this cannot be taken as a unique answer. When I say unique, that means only one value. We are only looking for one particular answer. And it is not necessary that both the statements should give us the same answer. They can have two different unique answers. Okay, so as we have seen in the flowchart also, that firstly check each statement alone if they are sufficient to answer the question. That is the first most thing. And combine only when you see they're not working out individually. When you see that individually they are not leading us to an answer, then you would go ahead and try and combine the data in both the statements and see if the answer is possible or not. Okay, now some of the questions you would see in the language, they start with are or is or can. For all such questions, only two answers are possible: yes or no. Rather than finding an exact value or finding any number or answer, the question is looking for only two answers: yes or no. So that is also something you need to keep in mind while solving data sufficiency questions. Now let's solve some problem to understand the concept much better. So we have a question: how many sisters does P have? So we are looking for, there's a person P and I want to know that how many sisters. We want to know the count of sisters this person P has. That is the basic question which is here. Now information in statement 1 says T and V are only sisters of D. So there is a person D who has two sisters T and V. So they, since it is being said they are sisters, so they have to be female. Now can the information with this statement is helping me to answer that how many sisters does P have? No, individually statement 1 is not helping me. Statement 2, let's look at statement 2 individually. Statement 2 says D is brother of P. D is brother of P. Again, when we look at statement 2 alone, are we able to answer how many sisters does P have? No. Individually, again, statement 2 is not helping me. Now, let me combine the data given in statement 1 and statement 2. When I combine the data given in statement 1 and statement 2, which says D is the brother of P, that's one, and T and V are the only sisters of D. So that means, since we are saying T and V are the only sisters of D, that means P cannot be a female member, P would be a male member. Combining this, when we are combining this, yes, we are in a position to answer that P would have two sisters which are V and T. Now here we have combined the data given in both the statements to reach to our answer. So here we will end up marking option D, because both the statements 1 and 2 taken together are sufficient to answer the question. Let's look at one more problem. So here we have tower Q is in which direction of tower P? That is the main question. So there's a tower P. With respect to tower P, we need to find out the direction of tower Q. Now information given in statement 1, which says P is to the west of H. So we have H. P is somewhere to the west of H. H which is to the south of Q. H which is to the south of Q. So it should be something like this. This is the information based on statement 1. Are we able to answer tower Q is in which direction of tower P? Yes. While standing at tower P, if we have to look at tower Q, we would be looking at northeast. So I am able to give an answer. Yes. Tower Q is in the northeast direction of tower P. Let's also evaluate statement 2. Statement 2 says F is to the west of Q and to the north of P. So this somehow looks like this. So again, standing at P, when we are trying to look at Q, we see we will have to look at in the northeast direction. Okay, so again we are able to give an answer northeast. Yes, tower Q is in the northeast direction of tower P. So here we can see we don't have to combine the data given in the both the statements, and independently each of the statement is able to answer the problem statement, whatever has been asked in the problem statement. So here we will mark C, that either one or two alone is sufficient to answer the question. Among 5 friends J, K, L, M, N, each of a different height, who is the second tallest? So a question is, who is the second tallest? So evaluating information given in the statement 1. Statement 1 says N is taller than M and K is shorter than M. So we have got an order between M and K also. So here we have 5 friends, and in the statement 1 we have got the order of 3 persons. So are we able to answer who is the second tallest? Only from the statement 1 we still do not have any information about J and L. So statement 1 alone cannot answer who is the second tallest. Looking at statement 2, individually first, L is taller than N. J is not the tallest. When we look at only at the statement 2, again we find out that individually it may not lead us to an answer. Now we'll combine the data given in both the statements. So when we combine the data given in both the statements, we see L is taller than N who's taller than M is taller than K, and we have been given J is not the tallest here. Now we see J is not the tallest. So we know J is not taller than L, but where do we place J is not clear to us. Whether J could be taller than M or could be shorter than N, or J can come between M or K. So where do we place J is not clear. So we cannot answer this particular question, that who is the second tallest. So even after combining the data given in both the statements alone, we will not be able to answer this question, that who is the second tallest, and we should mark here our answer as option number E, that neither 1 nor 2 is sufficient to answer the question. So here we have a question. The ages of Ashima and Apsara are in the ratio 9:8. What is the age of Ashima? So the data given in the problem statement is that Ashima and Apsara, their ages are in the ratio 9:8. And we need to give an answer about what is Ashima's age. Now in statement 1, we see the information given is that the ages of Ashima and Arpita are in the ratio 3:2. So here statement 1 introduces another person, which is Arpita, and the ratio of Ashima's and Arpita's age is given in the statement 1, which is 3:2. Now this particular information which is given in the statement 1 will not help us in identifying the age of Ashima. So statement 1 will not help us in knowing or reaching to our answer. When we look at statement 2, which says after 6 years the ratio of Ashima's and Apsara's ages will be 11:10. Let's see if this can help us in reaching to an answer. Now in the problem statement, the ages of Ashima and Apsara are in the ratio 9:8. Now this can be used as that Ashima's age is let it be 9x, and let Apsara's age be 8x. Whenever we open a ratio, we have to take a constant. According to information given in the second statement, 9x plus 6 upon 8x plus 6 would be 11 by 10. After 6 years, the ratio of their ages would be 11 is to 10. So we have one equation and one variable. So whenever we have, one equation and one variable, that particular variable can be solved. From here we can find out what is x. X will come out to be as 3, and Ashima's age is 9x, so Ashima's age would be 9 into 3, which is 27 years. So the information given in the statement 2 alone is able to fetch me an answer to Ashima's age, whereas information given in the statement 1 did not help us in any way. And since statement 2 was giving us an answer, we need not combine the data given in both the statements. So here we would have to go ahead and mark B as our answer. Let's have a look at how 3 statements questions are to be done. So here we have a question, how many brothers does Akash have? It has been specified Akash is a boy. Now statement 1 is Nilima is Akash's mother. So statement 1 says there's a boy Akash. Nilima happens to be his mother. Sudhir is Nilima's husband. So basically Sudhir is Akash's father and has only one daughter, Riya. So does this information answer that how many brothers does Akash have? No, actually not. This alone, information in the statement 1 alone is not telling me how many brothers does Akash have. We'll look at statement 2 now. Statement 2 says Riya has 2 younger and 1 elder brother. So this girl Riya has 3 brothers, 2 younger than her and 1 elder. So apart from Akash, Akash is a brother, there should be 2 more boys who are brothers to Riya. Now when combining independently, this does not help me, but when I combine information given in the statement 1 and 2, I think we'll be able to answer how many brothers does Akash have. That Akash has 2 brothers apart from a sister Riya. Statement 3, Akash is not the youngest child. Will that help us in any way in knowing how many brothers does Akash have? Actually not. So here we can see we have to only combine the information given in the statement 1 and 2, and that can answer that Akash has 2 brothers. So this is about the data sufficiency and how to approach questions based on data sufficiency. So I hope now you should not find any problem in going about how to approach these questions and how what all things you need to keep in mind while solving data sufficiency question. The most important of which is whether can I answer this question rather than what is going to be the answer for this question. So remember, if is more important than what in the data sufficiency questions. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.